Good morning, you guys. How is everybody? Who's on today? Who's here? Full disclosure, I haven't had any coffee yet today. This is my first sip right now. Okay, tell me. So good. Is anybody else like, I can't wait for my first sip of coffee? Because that's what I just did on live YouTube. Okay, hi. There's Lorraine. Hello. Okay. There were no questions for today, so I am going to talk you guys through the next module. Also, do you want to see something absolutely hysterical? Another thing I can talk to you about today, if you guys are interested, let me know. Oh, you're on a cleanse, Lorraine. Come on. We talked about module 4, which was the content system last week, and so I can walk you guys through module number 5, the administrative system. I can also show you what it looks like after a photo shoot. I did a photo shoot yesterday, and we did this photo shoot for the purpose of creating content. So on Monday we talked about the content, a content system. We talked a little bit about why you need a content system. And so we spent all this time. Okay, I'm gonna pick up my computer and I'm gonna show you guys. This is what my office looks like post photo shoot. Like it's chaos. So we did 5 different, I don't even know what to call them. I'm sure there's a proper term for it, but like setups, I guess. I think that might be what Emily called them. Yesterday, we had my kids involved, and the whole purpose of doing this was to create connection points for the brand, to give other people that are following me some insight into my life and create a connection point in order to build trust. Because as I frequently say, trust leads to value and value leads to a sale. So the content that I created, or that we created yesterday, was it was photographs. The way I described it to my son, who was about to have a meltdown halfway through it, because he didn't know he was going to have to change outfits 5 times. That bothered him a lot. But the way I described it is, I said to him, I said, do you know what content is? And he had a book in his hand. And I held the pages out from the covers on each side. And I said, this is content. This is stories, and this is words and pictures that tell a story. And someone had to sit down and create that. So the way I explained it is, what we're doing today is we're taking the pictures that tell a story. And later on, I'm going to sit down and work on creating words that tell a story. And so I'm going to use those pictures on Instagram, Facebook. Hopefully, I don't have a really strong Facebook strategy right now, but I'm working on that. Definitely Pinterest and on my blog. They'll be used in an email that goes out on Sunday. And the content is all going to be about what can you do as an entrepreneur who has kids at home for the summer, and there's no childcare. And, I feel like we all want to spend all this amazing time with our kids. But then as entrepreneurs, that time gets sucked away so quickly. So it's taking a lot of intention on my part to figure out how to do this. And these photo shoots are designed to help other women feel like they can be intentional about their time with their kids in chunks, and then go and get their work done and feel good about it. Okay, that's content. I don't know if that was helpful or not. Long story, but just wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight on it. Look for those pictures to come soon. I've already posted a couple behind the scenes stuff. Okay, so let's talk about, how is everybody doing in the course? Where are you? What module are you on? If you're like me, this always happens. I buy a course, I get into it. I really enjoy it. I print out all my worksheets like this. I print out everything at the beginning, and then I start working through it. Sometimes I'll even like watch all the videos in one sitting, and then I'll go back and start working through it. But then inevitably, I just slow down. Like it just stuff happens, life gets in the way, I lose my momentum. So it's not Iviana's like, I'm there too. It's not unusual for that to happen. I would actually say that probably like not just a high percent, like a huge majority of people are going to be like that. So let me have another sip of coffee. Lorraine says she can only focus on it in a few months. Yeah. So I would just encourage you to be really intentional about setting aside time for this stuff, because I don't even know what it is about this, but when we spend time educating ourselves, our businesses grow. Iviana says, business has been growing fast. Yay, huge praise. It stinks to be behind. Don't feel like you're behind. Just be intentional about setting some time aside and focus on like your education. And I love e-courses, you guys. It's just so good. And I have crazy weeks where I'm traveling and can't get anything done. That was last week. And then crazy weeks like this week where got a photo shoot, which is all consuming. But you know what? Probably on Monday, I'm going to just crawl into bed and keep working on the e-course that I'm currently taking. So I'm going to get this stuff done and then be intentional about setting aside time. So you guys do the exact same thing. Okay. Let's talk through Iviana says, this course is truly important though. No fluff and favorite stuff systems. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about I don't have my notes filled in. Oh, I know where my notes are. I can alternate here. Hang on one second. Let me get to this document. Hang on a second, guys. Module 5. Here we go. Okay. Hang on. Okay, so because a lot of us are feeling behind, I'm actually going to use my notes that I used whenever I recorded the videos and talk you guys through the whole module. So if you're watching this, maybe we'll see how it goes. But by the end of this, maybe you can check off module 5 and be like, I'm on module 2, but I've already finished module 5. Okay, so module 5 is all about the administrative systems. It's probably my least favorite system. And Iviana wants to know about bringing on a new assistant, doing onboarding today with a full-timer. Okay, I'll talk about that in a little bit. So module 5, the administrative system is pretty much administrative work in my brain is anything that has to do with a form. It's legal, financial, or human resources related stuff. For people who are creative, this can be a total drudgery kind of thing. And one of the things I would encourage you to do is if you fall into that category, and if I start talking about anything that you feel like bores you out of your noggin today, I would encourage you to to create a schedule, to be intentional about this. It doesn't even have to be once a week. It could be once a month. Like you could just have an admin day. And it's going to totally suck if you're creative and you hate it like I do. But after you do this work, I promise you guys, every time I am intentional about sitting down and doing especially my financial work, it feels so good. I mean, You know where you stand. You have so much clarity. So it like takes all this energy for me to get there and do it. But then after I do it, I'm like, look at me. I could be an accountant, you know? So I really just encourage you guys to embrace all this stuff today and set a schedule for that. Okay, what I wanted to help you do with this module was get efficiencies in place so that you would spend less time doing this stuff and more time actually working on your business. I also wanted to help you embrace the discomfort of all this stuff, because if you can, the more comfortable we can become being uncomfortable, the more successful we're going to be in life. We talked about this on Monday. Lorraine even asked, I think it was Lorraine said, how long did it take you to feel comfortable? I'm like, I'm still not comfortable. But it's not like scientifically proven, but one of the marks of charisma actually is charismatic people they know how to get themselves comfortable, even in uncomfortable situations. And so that applies to content and social media, but it also applies to the work that we have to do, and any type of work that just makes us go, oh, or we dread it just because it's not comfortable and we don't feel like we know everything about it. The more we can embrace that, the more successful we're going to be. So also in this module, we talked about the right money mindset, my tax saving stuff. I'll walk you through that. I did some basic legal frequently asked questions that I always get. And then I gave you guys some team building tips. So let me talk to you guys about this right money mindset worksheet. The first disclaimer that is made all throughout these videos is that I'm not a financial advisor. So this is not, none of this is constituted as financial advice, and you do need to go ask a tax professional or a financial professional if you want advice. So on the right money mindset, the first thing is I always say this, money is not a motivator and profit is not a purpose. So there's a study that they did a long time ago that actually shows that up to a certain point, people are motivated by money. And I think at the time it was like $35,000 a year, like a basic salary. Financially, after $35,000, people aren't motivated. Once their basic needs are met, they are not quite as motivated by money. If someone says they're motivated by money, they're probably more motivated by something internal. We talked about internal and external problems. They're probably motivated by the way money makes them feel and how it presents themselves to others, or just the security that it brings, that they're not actually motivated by the literal money itself. So in Daniel Pink's book, Drive, he talked about what was a motivator for people, and he defined it. He used the analogy of the acronym of MAP, mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And this helps us understand ourselves, but it can also help us with team building. So Iviana asked about her new assistant. Mastery, autonomy, and purpose. Let's talk through those really quick. Mastery is the ability to feel challenged by something and to enjoy learning about that. So with yourself, like, what do you feel challenged by? What do you enjoy learning about? That's, I think, the reason we all take e-courses is we enjoy the mastery of a specific subject, or the process of mastery. Autonomy, that's the ability to make decisions on your own. And Iviana, this is one thing I'll say about HR stuff. Whenever I was hiring people for Day Designer, and actually Emily, who works with me now, she came on, and this is the best example I have of like hiring someone, partly because it turned out so well for us, but also because it just made sense. So initially I hired Emily on a project by project basis. So I just looked around and there was like a little project, like all of these day designers needed to be shipped. And she showed up and like got it done in a day. I was like, that's awesome. And so then I hired her for another project. And pretty soon I saw that she was really good at navigating all this stuff. And little by little, over the course of the 2 years she worked for me, and then she went on to work for Day Designer beyond that for about 1.5 years. But I just little by little, she took on projects. So she took ownership. She took pride in her work. She figured stuff out. She didn't ask me a ton of questions. That's something that I look for when I hire people. If you can't figure something out, are you going to come ask me? Or are you going to, so I'll in an interview question, I'll say, I always say ask situational questions in interviews. So I'm jumping a little bit to talk about HR stuff here in a second, and I'll come back to the money mindset. But a situational question for this would be let's say I give you a project and you don't know how to complete it. What are you going to go do? If the person says, well, I'll come and ask you a question, wrong answer. I want them to be exercising autonomy and be challenged at figuring this stuff out themselves. So even when I have to ask Emily a question, sometimes one of the things that I try to do, even if I do have to ask a question, is I put in the effort first to figure it out. Unless I know that she's going to know it right off the top of her head and it's going to be easy for her to answer that, or I'm really struggling trying to find a piece of information, I always try to figure it out myself first. And so with your new assistant today, Iviana, I would just say, like, what are ways that you can challenge them to be autonomous? One of the ways that I feel like I can do this, and I learned this from Andy Stanley, is just turn the question back around on them. So if they come to you and say, well, here's another tip. You ask your team to give you options, because it helps you make a decision more quickly, and it gives them autonomy. They have to come up with 2 options. So if they're going to come to you and they need you to make a decision, tell them to give you 2 options. And this isn't like full autonomy on their part, but it does give them autonomy and helps them feel like they have had an ownership in the decision-making process. And it makes it easier for you to make a decision. Another thing that you can do is, if they ask you a question, just look at them and say, well, what would you do? And then they say, well, I would go do this. You can be like, that's great. Let's go do that. So it's easy to, as an entrepreneur, get caught up in the like, I have to make every decision kind of thing. And it is so liberating when you realize you don't have to. And I would just, for me, I'm even sitting here challenging myself, thinking about, like, is Emily making enough decisions on her own? Am I stepping in and calling too many shots, So, and Emily's watching this, probably, and she knows I love her, so hopefully I haven't said anything that offends her. But just allow your team members to have autonomy by letting them do stuff the way they want to do it. And oh man, it's just, talk about progress. When you find somebody really good who is willing to practice autonomy and do stuff on their own, like, so much stuff starts getting done. It's amazing. Okay, purpose is the definition of the formula for purpose is what you do best plus helping others equals your purpose. So purpose, this idea of purpose in business and in working with teammates and in as a motivator, is like, as humans, like, we're wired for connection. And unless you're a sociopath, like, you want the best for others. And so building that into your team culture and realizing that it's more of a motivator than we realize is an important thing to do. So you can ask yourself questions about purpose for yourself. What do I do best, and how can I use that to help others. You can look at your team as an entity in a body and say, what does our team do best and how can we use that to serve others? And you can look at that from a business standpoint. What does my business do best and how can that serve others? So Emily's like amazing at photo shoots and styling, a huge asset. So that's one of the things that together we know as a team we can do best. And we did that yesterday, and we're using that to serve others by inspiring women to have intentional summers with their kids. Okay. And true motivation in business and really in life comes from that sense of purpose. It's not that you need to go burn yourself out helping others, but the reason you guys provide products and services to your customers is because you're helping them, right? Bottom line. And that's why they're paying you, is they need that help. And so when I say money is not a motivator and profit is not a purpose, that's what I'm talking about. Profit is not a purpose. Profit does not, you can't, I remember one time, and I think I told this story, a girl that was working for me came to me and said, what's our true north? Like, what's our purpose? I was like, to make money. And she's like, that's not a purpose. And, that business that she worked with me on was my one that failed. And we had the wrong focus and the wrong purpose set before us. Okay, so the next tip I gave you was money is not good or bad. So a lot of times we have some very internal scripts about what money is. And I would encourage you to challenge yourself to think about what those things are. Think about your experience. We all have a very emotional connection to money, and often it falls into a good or a bad spot in our minds. And I would just encourage you to do this. So it's what we choose to do with our money that's good or bad. So you can be a nonprofit that is misusing money, or you can be a for-profit business that is putting tons of good into the world. So actually, if you're, a lot of times I'll hear entrepreneurs say, how do I do this and not feel guilty about making money? Like, they actually feel guilty about making money. And first of all, the answer is you ask yourself how much value you're providing. And so just understanding like the economics of supply and demand helps you realize that money is a tool that can be used to put a lot of good out there in the world. And if you aren't making sure that you're profitable, you are not exercising your ability to take hold of that tool, and you're not going to be as effective as you want to be with your customers or with the people that you're trying to help, which are your customers, but and just people in the world in general, like a bigger picture, like beyond your customers. So making money and having money should not be anything that sparks guilt in your life. Now, one thing I would say on this is I felt really guilty when I owned Day Designer. I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. I felt really guilty about how much money we were making. It was an amazingly profitable business. And I felt like if I went out and bought a new purse or a new pair of shoes or something, that like showing that would be bragging. So I didn't do that. Like when I sold the business, I went and bought like my first fancy handbag, as sort of a treat for myself, but it was really hard for me to, it was just really hard. I felt like it was bragging, And so I would just, if that's something that you're feeling, I would just challenge you to think more about your intention behind that. So it's not like you need to hide the handbag you just purchased. And this is where I'm talking to myself more than anybody. But we also don't need to go and flaunt that stuff because it could potentially make other people feel bad. So anyway, that's one thing that's a motivator for me. I do not want my actions to ever make anyone feel bad about themselves or their abilities. I want them to know that I believe in them, and I want my words and actions to inspire people to try to do bigger and better things for themselves and their people and their world. Okay. So Iviana, I see some comments. I have my notes open, but I see, okay. What are thoughts about pricing your services versus your products? I might get to that in a minute. Thank you. There's definitely a balance between humility and guilt. You worked hard for those things. Yeah, for sure. Okay, the number 5 tip was, I don't have my numbers anymore. My notes lost my numbers. So I would just encourage you to watch that first video. This is just a notes sheet. It's not going to be a complicated video to watch, but coupled with some of the stuff that we've talked about here today, I think it could be really inspiring for you guys and really motivational for those of us who have trouble digging into our financial stuff and need a little bit of encouragement to do that. Okay, so the next worksheet, next module was Accounting 101. Again, I'm not an accountant, so make sure you get advice. But I can tell you this, accounting is 90% about organization. And it doesn't even have to be complicated organization. I would encourage you to, this is what I do. No, I'm not going to encourage you to do this. I'm going to give you my experience because I'm not an accountant. I get paper credit card statements. The reason I get paper credit card statements is because when I have to go back and pull old statements, which I've had to do many times before, you have to like request a PDF and it takes 24 hours to get them or something, or tax bank account statement. So I get paper statements on everything. I don't open them at all. Don't open them. When I get them, they go straight into a box in my closet. And actually, I use like a little basket, but I'll just go get a really beautiful box every year. Like go to the Container Store and get something, or find something that is just gonna make you smile because it's gonna be beautiful. And when things are beautiful, we are more motivated personally to get work done. And stick it in the top of your closet or stick it someplace. And when you get those statements in the mail once a month, just go and put that stuff in there. That's an organizational system. That is organizing stuff. That is, that's accounting, simply because it's organized and you're going to know where to go get that stuff. Same thing with receipts. Put them in a box. It really does not take me that long to do taxes. What takes me a long time to do is hype myself up, like excite myself up to actually getting that done. So that's my first accounting tip for you guys. The next thing that I would encourage you guys to do from an organization standpoint is keep track of every W-9 that you send out. So especially if you're a service provider, and oh my gosh, hang on a second. I just forgot I had bacon in the oven. Oh my gosh, hang on. Okay, I'm back. It's totally fine. Okay. But every W-9 you send out, especially if you're a service provider, and someone pays you over $600, that means a W-9 means that they are going to report that income to the IRS, and the IRS is going to know you got it. And so if you don't report it at the same time, it's going to red flag you with the IRS. That is my very dumbed down elementary understanding of the IRS. So same thing with those W-9s. If you send one to somebody, and it's easy to like fill them out, PDF, blah, 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 send. You don't even print them normally, but print it and put a copy of it in that box so that you've got it all in one spot when you need it. Okay, another tip I would give you guys on this is not every state, but likely your state has a small business tax class that you can go to, or some kind of tax class. My husband went to one. That was something that he did for me a couple years ago. And frankly, like, we probably need to go again. I can't remember how long it was, like if it was half a day or something, but there's like a guy and you can ask questions and you really understand it all. And some of it's interesting and some of it's like, and there's always people asking dumb questions, but that's kind of how we all learn. Thank you for those people. And I would just encourage you to go to that, because it's going to help alleviate that discomfort that we feel with this subject. Okay, and then finally, a note on taxes. But whenever I figured this out and started doing it, you guys, it was a game changer for my business. Also, there's a really good book called Profit First. Really good book. Oh my word. And I've read the book, but I need to go back and implement all the things they talked about. It's similar to this. So I read the book and I'm like, this is what I did at Day Designer, and it worked so well. Okay, so every single month, like I said at the beginning of this video, I would just encourage you to pick a day. You don't have to do this stuff once a week, but pick one day a month. Run a profit and loss statement. So on QuickBooks, if everything's been entered in there, you should be able to run that. Run a profit and loss statement. And that's your gross sales minus expenses, and it's going to give you your net income. So that's the income that you've made after expenses. Take that net income, and I will also make a side note that I spent too long focusing on in my first business, I focused too much on my top line number, my gross sales. I took a lot of pride in that. Like, we hit 1 million, we hit 2 million. Shouldn't have been focusing on that. I should have been focusing on not my net income, but my after-tax income, which I'm going to explain that in a second. So your net income is the number of your sales minus your expenses. Take that net income number and divide it by 4. That's going to give you 25%. So 25% needs to go into a separate bank account. And an accountant is going to tell you what to do with that come tax time. But you will be saving 25% of your net income for taxes. Now, I know tax rates are sometimes like 33 or 35 or whatever. I don't even know. I'm not a CPA. But especially if you're in those margins, and we always were. Like, we were in the upper income margin with my businesses, and always had a lot of tax stuff. But 25% was always enough I didn't always have to dip into my main bank account at all to pay the taxes. So put 20, just get in the habit of saving that money on a regular basis, 25% of it, and it's just so much relief when you don't have to freak out about writing that tax check at tax time. The other thing that you can do on this, and I didn't talk about this in the video, is while you're running numbers on your net income, you can put, another thing that I did at Day Designer was we used a line of credit to get started, but one of my goals was to build up enough deposits, enough cash deposits to be our own line of credit. And so I put 10% into a savings account that, while we were also, like, I think paying down the line of credit 10% by 10% every month, I was also saving an additional 10% every month. So those first 4 years, or those first few years when we were really profitable, well, actually the first year and the second year weren't profitable. It was the third year and the fourth year that got really profitable. We were positioning the company to be really cash savvy so I wasn't taking very much money to live off of. I was really spending that money to make the company really healthy by saving it. Somebody said, Iviana says tithe. Yeah, you can tithe off that net income number if you want to. Some people want to tithe off of the gross number, whatever works for you. If you do tithe off of your gross number, you need to use the same number for, hang on, let me make sure I'm going to say this correct. No, I'm not even going to advise on that. Talk to your accountant if you're going to tithe on gross. There you go. Okay. That's it on admin or on accounting. Does anybody have any questions? Lorraine says, I do this with important documents that need to be filed. I collect them and file organize all in one sitting. Yeah. And I mean, like you can even, I know there's apps. I don't have like a really good one where you can take pictures of your receipts with your phone. Thank you for technology. Like it's probably getting easier and easier to do this. I haven't done any research into that. If you find one and you like it, share it. We would all love to know what it is. Iviana has a really good Evernote system. I'd like to hear about that. That sounds awesome. I use Evernote for my content system a lot. Everything's in there. It's been, and I've been building that out this year. Love Evernote. And it's fascinating to hear how other people use it. Okay. On the basic legal FAQ, again, the disclaimer is I'm not an attorney or a legal advisor, but the number one question I get from entrepreneurs is about intellectual property. In the video, I give you the definition of intellectual property, but that's just anything like that someone else has created or owned. Scan to a filing cabinet notebook. Interesting, Iviana. Okay, so intellectual property has to do with copyrights and trademarks and things like that. Copyrights typically cover written works like literature or music or even a painting or something artistic. Trademarks cover words, names, symbols, sounds, or colors that distinguish goods and services from those manufactured by others. So trademarks typically have to do with branding, and copyrights have to do with products, if that makes any sense. That is that is a super elementary way to explain that. But you can trademark, whereas a copyright has to be something that like is tangible. Like here's this, even if like an audio file isn't tangible, but here's this thing that I created and it's filed with the Copyright Office. So one thing with Day Designer is the black and white stripes that we had, the cover, that was trademarked. It was trademarked as trade dress, I think. But the stripes, because as soon as I created it and got it out there, people started knocking it off. So we actually sent cease and desist letters to people who were doing similar black and white stripes. Oh my gosh, there's so many stories, crazy stories. Okay, also trademarked the Tiffany blue color. Isn't that interesting? That Pantone color is trademarked by Tiffany. So, and I don't know if John is on here, but I know her husband is a trademark attorney, and I can say this can get super complicated, and I do use a trademark attorney for all my stuff, except copyrights. You can file your copyrights on your own, but with trademarks, you do need to hire an attorney. The number one question I get is about quotes, like how did you pick out and the only thing that I can safely say, and this is covered in the video, so if you want to know more about this, you can go watch that there, is you really can only use quotes, legally use quotes that are in the public domain. So that is anything that was created before 1923, interestingly enough. And I explained all this in the video. Okay, so if anybody has any additional questions about legal stuff, I would love it if you would shoot them to me throughout the year. This is stuff that I've navigated for years and years and I'm pretty familiar with, but it's like, what are people's legal questions? I'm not even sure like where to start on that. So if you would send me your questions, I could work that into the content for next year. Okay, then there is a video about team building. There are 10 tips. Number one, ask situational questions. I already talked about that. Hire people who exercise good judgment, because if you want them to be autonomous and use their best judgment in making decisions, you're going to want to hire people to do that. I would also tell you to hire people who are learners. Like, hire people who are interested in learning and are the kind of people that are going to be like reading a book or something, just on their own. Like, it's not like you're gonna be like, hey, read this book. Like, they're just going to go find their own books and read them about business or stuff, things like that. Allow people to use their judgment. Number 4 is take blame when things go wrong, and give credit where credit is due, is number 5. So take blame when things go wrong is just, that's your way as a business owner that you're taking ownership of the actions the company has taken. And then when things go right, you need to give away all the credit. And this is like counterintuitive, because most people want to like push blame away when things go wrong and accept the praise when things go right. And that's just the wrong way to handle things. I'm thinking of a situation I know happening with another business right now. It has nothing to do with my business, but we've got a leader who is pushing off blame because things are going wrong, and is going to be quick to step up and take credit when things look awesome, and it's not going to end well. Okay. Number 6 tip was, let me read this now. Okay. Jim Collins says in his book, Good to Great, you need to get the right people on the bus, in the right seats on the bus. If you have someone on your team who is not in the right seat on the bus, it is always better to have that difficult conversation sooner rather than later. And if you have somebody on your team whose judgment you don't trust, that's a red flag that they're not in the right seat on the bus, and maybe they're on the wrong bus. Number 7 tip was, everyone is replaceable, but everyone matters. And what I mean by that is, if you lose a team member, a valuable team member, don't get discouraged. Like, you will be able to find other people. Your team will change and evolve, and things will happen differently. But everyone does need to be treated like they are irreplaceable. So everyone is replaceable is terminology in entrepreneur world. And you can always find someone else to do computer programming or, set up emails and things like that. But if you start treating your people like you can just go find somebody else, they're going to know that they don't matter to you, and they're not going to do their best work. Number 8 is, sometimes the best decision is a quality of life decision. So this is a core value for me in building a business, is I have to have a business that gives me quality of life. If the business ever starts draining quality of life from me, then it's no longer serving its purpose, and something needs to happen. Number 9, hire and train people to be obsessed with customer service. Emily actually did this single-handedly at Day Designer. I don't even remember who picked the hire, because we had somebody who read the resumes and did like the top level interviews. Oh no, we hired through a temp, like a external firm for that customer service. Hang on a second, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, you're upstairs. Will you go? I'm on a conference call. Will you go upstairs and get her? Thanks, Grant. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry. We had a slumber party last night, and I think it's about to wrap up, so I probably need to wrap up too. There's Stacy, Quality of life in business lately. I've been wearing myself out, building a team to help with that. Yeah. Quality of life, Stacy, quality of life. Okay, hire and train people to be obsessed with customer service. That's a company culture thing, not something you alone can do. So you need to make sure that everybody you hire has heart for people and truly wants to help others. But then at the same time can balance that with good judgment. And then the last tip I have for hiring is don't surround yourself with yes people. Like anytime you have somebody just sitting there going, okay, great. You're on a dangerous path. So one of the things that I really appreciate about Emily is, and she's my only team member right now, is she pushes back. She challenges me if something's going wrong. And it's not always fun. It's very rarely fun, but she challenges me, and I know that that's going to be a good thing. Okay, and then the last thing in this module that we did for you guys was this metrics tracker template. That's the last page. Is just a page where you can keep track of every system. So you could print this out, do this. You could do this once a month. You could do it once a week, but I wanted to give you guys a way to actually tangibly track this to keep you on track for making sure you're implementing this stuff. So even if you haven't finished watching all the videos of the course, this is something that you could print out and start trying to work on right away. And if you challenge yourself to do one thing, that's what I would challenge you to do, is to really push forward on this one. And then, okay, wait, there's a question over here. Yeah, Emily is amazing. We also had a gal named Debbie who was actually, I think, in Seattle or Oregon or something. I think I talked to Debbie actually like 3 times, but she was amazing, and Emily was a great leader at that. What are the next steps with closing out the program and Slack, et cetera? Great question, Iviana. Slack is going to stay up for a couple more weeks. It won't stay around forever just because it's not realistic for Emily and I to navigate that all year long. But we will relaunch the course in, I think, this fall, I think. And Albert Einstein said, what did he say? Why remember what you can write down? And so that's, all this is written down, but it's not in my head. Okay, so I haven't decided if we're going to like totally close Slack out, or if we're just going to say, hey guys, we're not going to be on here answering questions for a while and resurrect it. I'm not sure how we're going to do that. So Emily and I are going to talk about that. One thing that I am going to do, and I'm still working on the infrastructure on this, is I'm going to offer a monthly membership. And it's going to be $49 a month for everybody else, but I was going to offer it to course members for $29 a month. And what it's going to be is like this type of format. It'll basically be like one module a month kind of thing, not this content, but other stuff. So I'm always reading, I'm always learning. And so it'll be a schedule of content that I create. It'll be like, I read this book and today we're going to talk about market disruption, or I read this book and we're going to talk about the right marketing mindset. So I am going to be doing that and launching that in June. And yeah, it'll be kind of like a little bit of a more mastermind form. And we're actually going to cap it at 300 members. I don't necessarily expect 300 people to sign up, but it'll be an ongoing thing, like a subscription service. And can we do Zooms instead of YouTube? I can look into it. I can look into that. So, but I was definitely going to cap the membership. I initially said 300, but maybe that will change. I don't know. But I really enjoyed, oh, so all of our faces are there. Okay, let me look into it. That's an interesting idea. Let me think about that. I definitely would love the like one-on-one connection. And there's a couple different formats we could use. Whenever I do the mastermind events, and the next one is October 1st through 3rd. And if you are on this video, I guarantee you, you would love that event. Love it, love it, love it. So like hands down, it's going to blow your mind. So if you feel like you can get on a plane and come and join us October 1st through 3rd, I think we have 5 seats left at that event. It's really going to be awesome. Okay, let me think what else. Oh, there's Emily. It's not October 1st through 3rd. It's October 16th through 18th. Guys. Oh my word. How embarrassing. Okay. Yeah, Zoom is something that we've used in the past, but I've never thought about using that for like a subscription type thing. So I got to think about that. So I'm going to be doing that. And then in July, I'm going to be launching an Instagram class, a little 4-module Instagram course on creating content for your Instagram and connecting with your tribe members there. And then in September, I'm going to be doing a values discovery course. So there's more stuff coming. And then when I relaunch Biz Designers, which I think is in October, now I'm like second guessing myself. So when we relaunch Biz Designers, you guys will get an email, and the email will be similar to what you, if you're watching this and you were one of the people who purchased the first time, you got an email that said, hey, we're redoing Biz Designers. Do you want in? And so if you want in, you'll have to like re-opt in. You'll have to say like, yes, I want back in, and you'll get added to the new Slack group. And so just because we want to keep the people that are in the course like engaged, we want to keep them. It's just, you don't want dead weight in a course. Like we just want really good energy and really good, stuff like that. So anyway, that's that. Are there any other questions? Iviana, thank you for asking that question about closing out the program. But does anybody have any other questions about anything? And I think there's a delay on this. So when I ask that question, I have to wait for a second for a response. I think I questioned you out, Iviana says. Love it. Thank you for all the questions. I really love the engagement and the interaction. So thanks, Emily. Okay, so we're going to get all this information finalized, and we'll send it out to you guys. You'll just, like watch your inboxes. You're on the list, and we'll let you know everything. Is there a time limit to watch these recorded live Q&A videos? No, the only thing there's a time limit on is the Slack group. So that was something that we did for this round, just kind of like feeling our way through it. How's it going to go? And it's been great. Like the Slack group, like people have asked questions, they've been able to brainstorm with each other and connect that way. I can really see going forward how that could be a great tool for the course. It gets people engaged on Slack, which is an incredibly helpful tool. So it kind of gives you an education on like how you could use that for your team. You can actually have like multiple Slack groups in the same app. And so it does that, but then it also allows us, it allows you guys to share your thoughts with each other, but it's not a forum and it's not Facebook. And so it's just a nice little neutral piece of territory for us to all meet on. Where are the video links hubbed? I've been getting them from Slack. I'm not sure. That's probably an Emily question. I think they've been sent out via an email. And I'm assuming Emily manages all that, but she's the best. So they're probably linked in the course content. So when you log in to the course, yeah, there she is. They'll be on the course schedule page. So they're right there for you. Thank you guys so much. It's been fun. It's been great for me too. I've really enjoyed these lives with you guys, and you've asked awesome questions. So have a good one. I will see you on Slack for a couple more weeks, and then I will see you guys around on Instagram at the very least, probably. And then hopefully on the next round of the course. We would love it if you would hop in and pick up where you left off. Oh my gosh, the flies are at the front doors open. It's officially fly season. Lovely. Okay, bye, Lorraine, Iviana, Stacy. Thank you guys. Jonna, I'm not sure who else is on here. But thank you guys so much. Appreciate you lots. Oh, there's Fitness Punch. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, have a good one.